Governor George Wallace's announcement that he would not run for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by Senator John Sparkman was brief. It came at the close of a speech at the Alabama League of Municipalities convention in Mobile. It caught everyone by surprise, including his aides. Wallace said his decision was something he had thought over for the past few days while at the governor's mansion in Gulf Shores.
I decided over there in the last 2 or 3 days, instead of a press conference in my office in Montgomery, that even though you've been very generous and kind to me, have offered me much support, money and otherwise, to run for the United States Senate, as one who feels and knows that he could win the United States Senate seat, I want to announce to you tonight that my conclusion after being in Gulf Shores the last couple of days is that I will not be a candidate for the United States Senate. Thank you very much.
And with that, he left his stunned audience of several hundred at Mobile's Municipal Auditorium.
Excuse him, there's supposed to be a thunderstorm coming in toward Montgomery, and he is leaving now, going back to Montgomery, and he's going to leave. But let's give the governor one more round of applause for what he's done for city government.
The governor, his assistant press secretary Elvin Stanton, and security personnel made a quick exit from the auditorium. He refused to comment further, and in a few moments he was gone, heading back to the governor's mansion in Montgomery. It was revealed recently that efforts are underway to establish a teachings chair for Wallace at a major Alabama university. But after dropping the surprise bombshell here last night, the governor did not elaborate on his future and gave no reason for his decision not to run for the U.S. Senate. Reporting from Mobile, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
I was not an announced candidate for reasons that are known to me. I could have won the Senate race. I have no doubt about that. In a way, I sort of regret being out for the simple reason that I won't have this crew to kick around any longer. So with that aside, have you any serious questions to ask me?
Why did Governor, I'm Jack Henry, TV5 in Mobile.
Now talk louder.
Why did you decide not to
I just said,
enter the Senate race?
I said that I had reasons known to myself.
Did it have anything to do with your health?
My health is good. I'm all right.
Governor, are you just tired?
I just decided not to run for the Senate. That's a simple answer and the simplest thing I can give you. Now, let's don't make a federal case out of it.
Well, you could dispel any...
Even so, we'll make a federal case. All right, go ahead.
Well, but you could dispel any doubts that people have in their mind if you would tell us, or at least give us some indication of why you did pull out. Because,
Well, why do I have to do that?
well, otherwise there would be a lot of speculation.
Well,
You would clear our mind.
You're allowed to ask it, but I don't have to answer it. And I don't want to make a federal case out of it. I
Your
just want
former
to...
wife said that it was because of your health that that's what you had talked with her about. Is that true?
Now, my health's in good shape.
She said that you thought you couldn't handle the rigors of Washington
Who
office.
said that?
Cornelia, you remember.
Well, everybody has their own opinion, you know, and
Governor,
that's another opinion.
Governor, does this mean you're out of politics for good, or are you just
Oh, I
not
didn't
running for
say
the
that I
Senate?
was retiring necessarily from politics, and I didn't say that I wasn't. I said that I was not going to run for the United States Senate.
Have you
And,
spoken to the candidate?
What else might you run for? If not
Well,
for the
I
Senate?
haven't got anything in mind to run for. I expect to continue to be active in the sense that I do feel very good at the fact that the people of this part of the country, Alabama, are more responsible than the people of any other state in the Union for several years ago, beginning through me as their estimate, to let the American politicians know the mood of the American people. And I feel that the people of Alabama did more than anyone else did on that, and I'm very grateful to them.
Governor, who will you support in the race, the Senate race?
Who will you support in the Senate race, Governor?
Oh, I will not support anyone. I'm going to not be involved in the races for the simple reason that the people of this state were intelligent enough to elect me 3 times and my first wife once, and I don't know that they need any advice from me.
Governor, will you be involved in any political campaign at all?
I do not intend to be involved in any political campaign at all.
Governor?
Excludes the governor's race. Excludes the governor's race coming up.
Including any race. Justice of the peace or anything else.
What will you do when your
Governor,
term
what will you do after
ends?
January?
What?
What will you do after January?
Well, honey, I'm not sure what I will do, but I will do something.
Are you pursuing the seat at the University of Alabama? Are you pursuing the seat at the University of Alabama, Governor?
Are you pursuing the seat at the University of Alabama?
No, I'm not pursuing that at all. I've had people in various institutions as high as 2 years ago, before I even indicated I was going to run for the Senate, to talk to me about the possibility of coming with them, but I have no plans at all, and I'm not pursuing that one bit.
Well, Governor, haven't you spoken to John Harbert, who was raising money for that seat?
I said, haven't you spoken with John Harbert, who's raising money for that seat?
I was told by Mr. Harbert that he was doing that, and I told him that, well, I appreciated the fact that he wanted to do that, but that I was a candidate for the United States Senate.
Have you spoken to him today? Have you spoken to Mr. Harbert today?
I have not.
Governor, did you just not like the thought of having to leave Alabama and stay in Washington for so long as a senator?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but of course I always hate to leave Alabama at any time.
But that didn't enter into your decision, being up there among people whom you haven't known as long as you have in Alabama?
Well, since you've brought it up, maybe thinking about being that bunch around that many pointed heads at one time, I don't know whether I could maybe take it or not. And you know what a pointed head is?
Why don't you tell us?
It's a fellow whose head, since you press folk can't quite understand in news media, a pointed head is one whose head starts off like this and runs up into a point. Very simple, very simple.
Governor, what would you like to do when you leave the governor's office? What are you considering doing?
What would you like to do when you leave the governor's office?
I'm not sure, honey, I'm just not sure.
Governor, what options do you feel you have?
Well, I don't know what options I do have. I'm not out of office yet. I have a lot of options between now and the time I go out of office. I want to whip on some of these members of the Senate who've obstructed government in this state and opposed the interests of the average citizen and stood for the special interest or something of that sort. But I'm going to call them into special session, and when they get into special session, they're going to have to agree already to what they're going to do, or they're not going to be called.
Governor, now that you've mentioned a special session, have you decided when you're going to call it?
Have you decided when you're going to call that session?
No, ma'am.
Were you having difficulty raising money for your campaign?
No, sir, Mr. Jones. We raised nearly $200,000 just coming through this office, through my desk. Made no big raising money effort at all. And we would have done quite well in money. We had already had a couple of $100,000 that I had even listed of people that had told me, when you announce officially I will contribute to your campaign. No, that was not it at all.
Governor, last week you said that you were going to run, and now you say you're not. Was there anything that happened that changed your mind?
Well, just my mind changed.
Well, Governor?
But nothing happened.
Nothing happened that I know of, except maybe a little fairy or something talked to me one night when I was asleep. But other than that, I can't think of anything. It seemed like that could have been the case.
Governor, you've been in public life for so long. Don't you think you should explain to the public why you've decided now not to run for this high office?
Well, Kennedy, my explanation was the public that I decided I did not want to run.
And you don't feel you owe them any more explanation than that?
Well, I owe the people of Alabama and of the country very much. But I do not feel that I'm letting them down by not going into every implicit detail of why I'm not running. They've been good to me, and I owe them everything. I owe them my life. But I think they're satisfied with the explanation that Governor Wallace doesn't want to run.
Governor, could I ask you this? In your own words, would you tell us what you believe to be your impact on American politics during the last 20 years?
I don't know what my impact will be. That'll be for you and others to say, but I know that the people of this state have had a great impact. And I am very grateful to them that they've allowed me to be their instrument in bringing about much of the change in American political thought that exists at the present time in the American Congress. But as far as what I did as an individual, I think that's infinitesimal compared to what the people of this state and the average citizen has done over the years and will do even more as time goes by.
Governor, do you think you would be president right now had you not been shot in '72?
I believe that I would have had a good chance to have been, yes.
I was very surprised and would like to know his real reason for withdrawing from it.
I'm very glad Governor Wallace is not running for the Senate. I'm a strong supporter of Chief Justice Heflin, and I think he will make an excellent senator.
Well, I'm delighted that he's withdrawn because I strongly support Mr. Heflin, Hal Heflin.
Were you surprised?
Yes, I was. I was quite surprised. But I'm very glad he did. I think it was a good move on his part.
I think it was a smart decision because, you know, he is hampered a little bit, you know, in a wheelchair. You know, he can't get around like the other senators do, you know, as far as, you know, the load of work is concerned.
Whatever he wants to do is fine with me. I don't have any opinion about him.
I think it's a good idea. I really do.
Why did he say he didn't want to run? I mean, because he didn't give a reason? Well, I guess it's his choice, so if that's what he wants, it's okay.
Well, I think it'd be a good thing if he's been in it long enough. He should let somebody else have it.
Well, I guess I'm a little bit surprised. I guess everyone thought perhaps he would. But I don't know. I have mixed emotions about it.
I think that it's a sad day for Alabama. I think he's been a great governor for the state of Alabama, and I think it's just a sad time when he's going to drop out of politics.
I don't have any idea of why, but I think it's probably best for him physically.
As you might have read, I was quoted in the press 6 weeks ago as saying that it was not at all sure that the governor would run for a number of reasons, health and so forth. I never thought it was more than a 50-50 chance because of the problems that he has. So I would say that I was not shocked or stunned. I was surprised that it came when it did because I'd heard that he announced earlier that he was running. As a matter of fact, he told some mutual acquaintances just this past weekend that he definitely was running. But I think probably he made the best decision. I think that he's got to think of himself and his health and what he's able to do and the vigors of a campaign ahead, and it would be a vigorous campaign, so I can certainly understand his decision.
News of his retirement from active participation in politics
leaves me with mixed emotions. Since politics and government service have meant so much to Governor Wallace through the years, I hate to see him retire. But there are other areas in which he can serve the people than in the area of government service. And I'm sure that some of these areas will be opened to him.
I think there has been speculation for some time as to whether or not Governor Wallace would choose to run for the Senate. Many believed that he would choose to step down after heading the state for so many years. Governor Wallace will be remembered for his strong support of an adequate school system throughout the state, whereby he was able to say that every child in the state of Alabama could attend school through at least the junior college level while living at home and enjoying free transportation to and from school.
Well, of course, I don't think it's the end of an era, George. I think that he decided not to run for the Senate, and that's just about all it is right at this moment. Now, what he does in the future is, I'm sure he'll have to decide sometime soon.
Do you have any feelings at all about his decision?
Well, I feel like this. If that's what he wanted, then that's what I want. His happiness is most important. And if he's happy not running for the Senate, then I'm happy for him.
As I've said to some, I could not say that I did not have some forewarning, but it did come as a complete surprise. I did not believe the warning that I received, and I was not expecting him.
Do you feel that he really had a desire to go to Washington?
No, I do not. I think he went through periods of time when he would foresee himself as being involved in the Washington process, when interested legislation would come up in Washington, and those things that he would have a knack for, an interest in. I could see his interest inflate a bit. But by and large, from day to day, overall, I would have to say that his interest in going to Washington was minimal. I think he almost dreaded the thought, or grew to dread the thought, of going up there, changing from Alabama to the Washington scene. I think the governor felt that he was at a point in life that to leave here, leave his friends that he's accumulated over his lifetime, and his family, and go to a location far removed from here, was almost like starting completely over in life again, and he just didn't want to do that. And as I've told many today, I think the decision was that simple. He did not want to do it. And, you know, I don't guess we'll be able to sell it that simply, but that's really it.
I was certainly surprised in his move and withdrawing. I had the opinion that he was ready and willing to go in for a great fight for that race.
Well, I certainly was surprised, George, as I'm sure most of the people of this state were. I think that he is not through with politics. I think we will be seeing Governor Wallace on the scene from now on. This may have some effect, I think, on some of the races that are coming up this year, though. I think maybe it will have an effect on the people who are going to run for the United States Senate, for example. I think Governor Wallace has done a good job for this state, but I think he's made a sound decision.
Do you think also that his decision will have quite an impact on the state races that are coming up?
I think that will have an impact on the state races that are coming up, because it will put him in a position to use his influence one way or the other in a number of the state races, and I think it will have an effect on all of them.
Mayor Farmer has estimated the overall damage done by the May 9th flooding to be almost $250,000, with the majority of damage to drainage ditches such as this one on Perry Hill Road. Farmer will ask the City Council next week to pass an ordinance approving a budget change to fund the repair work. He added that these ditches are only the ones which absolutely must be repaired immediately. Smaller repair jobs will be made as time and money permits. This particular job at Perry Hill Road will cost an estimated $6,000 just to pour in a mixture of dirt and cement. But the first and most expensive ditch to be repaired is on Plantation Way in northeast Montgomery. That job will cost an estimated $90,000. Other ditches to be repaired are Gunner Park Drive at a cost of $57,000, Linwood Ditch at $12,000, Coffee Street $25,000, Glad Lane Ditch $45,000, and Buckingham Street Ditch at about $5,000. The first project, Plantation Way, should begin on Friday, weather permitting. This is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News, reporting.
Montgomery County School Superintendent Silas Garrett said today he would not order the same approach for Montgomery County schools because, in his words, there's more to dismissing a teacher than a principal deciding who has command of the English language. Currently, Montgomery County teachers can be dismissed for lack of communication skills only if the lack of those skills can be documented through observation and evaluation. The Mobile Board's decision also evoked comments from State Superintendent Wayne Teague, who says their efforts are commendable, but due process must be remembered.
I would say that I applaud their efforts to what they refer to, I believe, as weeding out incompetence. I'd like to say that, in my opinion, we have 5% or less of our teachers who would fit that category. The majority of our teachers are good teachers doing a good job. But if we have one incompetent teacher in the classroom, it's one too many. So I applaud their efforts. I would caution them, however, that we must remember due process, and that if a teacher has been certified and doing a job for several years with that certification, that I strongly suspect that the courts will rule they have a property right. So I just caution the school board in Mobile or other boards, as they do this, make sure they remember due process rights of individuals.
Teague added that many new policies are being adopted by the state board to assure competency in the classroom for many years ahead. This is Janet May, WSFA TV News.
That's 10-4.
We got enough.
I've made many mistakes because I'm human. But I do know that maybe that in the beginning involved in the matter of our separated schools, that had I used a little more tact in letting the people of the country know that we're talking about constitutional government, we're talking about the encroachment upon the rights of the states by the federal government, so that you folks could not have made it look as if it were anti-black. I've never been anti-anybody in my life. I never will be, because God made us all, and I believe in God.
Were you reluctant to get into the Senate race perhaps because you were afraid you would win and that you would have to go to Washington and sort of start a new life up there? Did that concern you at all? Did that enter into your decision?
Getting away to Washington in a wheelchair means that you're not able to jump up and come home as often as you might be otherwise, would otherwise, and that may have had something to do with it subconsciously. May added up to all those things subconsciously that evolved in my conscious mind that I do not believe I will run for the Senate, and that I will not run.
You won't change your mind?
You mean about running for the Senate?
Or for anything else?
Well, there's no use to say that everything is definite, cemented in your mind, but I cannot think of running for anything else, no.
The Unification Church's case was based on two major assumptions. First, the suit charged that the solicitation of funds by a religious group is protected under the First Amendment. The church's attorney, Howard Mandel, argued that there is definite case support that the Unification Group is indeed a religion, a fact that had been questioned by both the mayor and the city council. Second, Mandel argued that the section of the city code dealing with solicitation requests gives the mayor and the city council, quote, unbridled discretion in granting or denying permits and is therefore unconstitutional. The city's attorneys argued that someone had to have that discretion in order to properly protect the citizens of Montgomery. Even though Judge Varner's ruling means that the city must grant the so-called Moonies permission to solicit funds, Mandel says he hopes they'll wait before actually returning to the streets.
I wouldn't rush that fast. What I'd like to do is wait to see the judge's order and then get together with the lawyers for the city and see if we can work it out in some orderly fashion. But it will be hopefully within the next several days.
What are your comments on what happened today?
Well, I'm very glad to see us receive permission to raise funds in the city, and we plan on visiting as soon as possible.
In response to Judge Varner's ruling, Mayor Farmer said he will, quote, obey the law and do what the judge says.
Cases such as this dealing with religious groups are definitely not without precedent. In the hearing before Judge Varner, the plaintiff cited several cases, both in district court and Supreme Court, all of which have gone in favor of the plaintiffs. So now the next move is up to Mayor Emery Farmer, who must decide if he wants to fight this ruling in what he calls the best interest of the people of Montgomery. From the federal courthouse, this is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News reporting.
27 young girls from ages 5 to 16 make up the Majestics, but that's only about 1/3 of Donnie York's girls gymnastics program at Cloverdale Junior High School. York convinced the Parks and Recreation Department to begin the program last November, and he says the response to the program has been tremendous since then. Very few of the girls in the program had any previous gymnastics experience, but the Majestics still won the state team championship in Birmingham 2 weeks ago. The Majestics will now send 7 girls to the Southeastern Junior Olympics meet in Huntsville this weekend, but York says the girls aren't doing anything different to get ready for that meet.
We are going to stay on the same basis of what we have for the state. The week before state, we did work out quite a bit, extra. We worked out quite a bit harder than we had previously up until the state meet. And of course, I will not change anything what I have done up until state.
Hey, Donnie, a girl comes to you, hasn't had any gymnastics experience at all. Where do you begin?
We begin on floor. I think that's where the basics is to gymnastics. And then we also work on low beam. I do not put them on high beam to start with. And when I feel that they are able to get on high beam, we do go to high beam. And of course, bars are very hard. It takes a lot of strength to work on bars. And vaulting is quite dangerous too. And so I usually start off with floor and balance beam, and we work up from there.
York says he enjoys teaching and coaching the young girls because they're generally a little bit more disciplined and a little bit more dedicated than boys the same age. And York says some of the girls practice at least 12 hours a week at Cloverdale and would probably do more if given the opportunity. They'll get a chance this weekend to see if all that work has paid off. The Junior Olympics meet begins tomorrow in Huntsville with teams from Alabama, Tennessee, and Northern Florida competing. Dan O'Brien, WSFA TV Sports.
ongoing weather outlook so far this spring is supposed to continue. Farmers will find soil moisture adequate to periodically heavy for the next 30 days, as officials point to expected increased shower activity. Extension Service spokesmen say this will mean irrigation needs will stay reduced. And, as has been the case throughout the wet spring so far, field work will be delayed at times. Weather interruptions are listed as most likely later in May until mid-June. But rain should allow pastures to improve while delaying making hay and harvesting small grains. Wet weather is expected to cause plant disease problems, according to Extension Service specialists. Increased shower activity will hinder pesticide control problems. While the weather outlook calls for more rain, temperatures are expected to begin climbing above what has been relatively abnormal cool days. This will mean poultry and swine will need preparation for heat stress. The next month will mean a lot toward next fall's harvest as young plants fight for strength. Dick Bird, WSFA TV News, reporting.